So, we have a motion as to who would like to draft who for this year.
Oh, I think we should just hold the same officers over for another year as it will present less problems. Everybody gonna second that?
I'll second that.
There we go.
Okay, are you good with that?
Yep.
Okay.
Don't forget to turn your mics on, guys.
Been moved and seconded to re-elect board members from 2019 for 2020. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
And that is,
Motion carried.
for the record, that is Jay is president, John is vice president, and Jean is secretary.
Correct.
Mr. President, I would ask that you acknowledge our new member here, the new appointment from the City Council.
Yep.
Josh Finch has just taken over as the City Council representative from District 2 and has been appointed by me as a non-voting member from the City Council. And Josh is, I know, excited. He asked me if he could be on this board, and that was kind of the board I'd had in mind for him, and I think Josh is going to offer a lot to this board. So to welcome Josh to the board.
Welcome, Josh. We're glad to have you here. Please, first of all, you're following a long line of council members who've really provided a lot of good input for us. Secondly, please do not hesitate to ask questions, particularly when we start using acronyms. It can be very confusing. You're not going to ask a dumb question. Feel free to interrupt and ask anytime, because we appreciate the support we've gotten from the council over the years, and you're our way that we communicate things to the council. So we want you to know everything that's going on, and so glad to have you here.
All right, glad to be here. Thank you very much.
Very good.
Yeah.
I've got an agenda. Next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the December 10th, 2019 board meeting. You should have all had a chance to review those.
I move we accept the minutes as written.
Do I hear-
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from the December meeting. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carried. That's for you to sign, Gene, if you could. Claims, what in particular do you want to discuss with us tonight, Nick?
Pretty slow month. The only one out of the ordinary there, core mechanical services for $1,001.73. We had some maintenance done to the main drain line in the terminal building out to our septic tank. Other than that, really quiet month. So outside of that, total claims for the month was $6,330.04. And then for Ascent Aviation Group, we had 3 loads of jet fuel, totaling $54,120.58.
How many of those we normally get?
It really depends on the month. It really does depend. Some weeks we're super busy and we'll get a load or 2 loads in a week, and then other weeks, Thanksgiving through the beginning of the new year is pretty slow for executive travel, so we don't see as many fuel loads those 6 or 8 weeks. So,
Any further questions for Nick?
No. I make a motion, we accept these claims as presented, especially the Ascent Aviation for $54,120.58.
Second.
Been a motion made and seconded for approval of the claims. Any further discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carried. Okay, we have, next on the agenda, we've recognized our visitor. Usually for the reports, we let the engineer go before the airport manager. So Mary, fire away.
Just throw me a curveball the
That's right.
first meeting.
Yeah,
I'm following the agenda.
Okay.
Okay, so I know you guys have a lot of papers in front of you. I apologize. It should not be this many going forward, but the first, we had a meeting with Nick on December 11th, and attached the meeting summary of that you can read while you're trying to fall asleep tonight. But it was very productive meeting, and some of the action items that I'm going to touch on were developed from that meeting. So first, we have reached out to Applied Pavement Technology. They are the consultant for NDOT that does the pavement index inspections. And we've asked them for your most recent, what they call PCI numbers. And you just recently, you get an inspection every 3 years, so you just got an inspection this fall, and they're finalizing those numbers. So we'll hopefully have those in the next few weeks. We also have included a rough draft of the capital improvement plan. So that is the attachment that has yellow on it. So you submit this to NDOT every February 1st. It is due. And we are submitting what was submitted last year with one change. For the year 2021, you had shown in there requesting funds for the power line lowering. So you obviously don't need to be requesting those funds anymore since you have supplemental funding for that. So that shifted the remaining projects up. This is a planning document only. We will most likely be getting with FA and NDOT here shortly to discuss the future of these, but because of the quick turnaround with February 1st being the deadline for this, we wanted to submit it per that deadline. So I didn't know if there were any comments about the CIP and what we're proposing, but it is what you had submitted last year. Again, this is no binding document. It is purely for planning purposes. It doesn't, say it doesn't require you to pay any money or anything. It's just so that they know what you all are planning in the future.
Okay. Only a bookkeeping thing, Nick,
Yep.
but for the capital improvement plan, haven't we traditionally had board president as opposed to you sign that letter when it goes out?
Typically, yes.
Okay.
It can be either one, though.
Okay. I'm gonna suggest we
like.
just do that, like we have done it. I think it's good for it to come from the board.
Got it.
If that makes sense to you. And so then all we need is a motion to approve the, authorize me to sign the capital improvement plan if presented to me in line with this.
So moved.
Alrighty, I will send you those documents.
Okay.
I don't have them here today, but
That's okay.
it'll be based off of this summary.
That's okay, we got time.
Yep.
Okay. Been moved and seconded to approve, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed say nay, motion carried. Okay, Mary, back to you.
Alrighty, and next, I believe Nick has shared the contract with all of you. I don't know if anyone has any questions or comments about that. I know that Nick was waiting to hear back from legal if they had any comments. One comment that I will address is that there are no prices in there. Normally how we handle it, it's a project by project basis of what we're going to, be charging. If we need an environmental scientist on one project and we don't need him on the next project, then we won't include him on the next project. And that also helps if, we get, prices for 2020 and then we're going to be doing a project in 2021. Obviously, we have rate changes and everything from year to year, so.
The city attorney, as I was heading over here, stopped me and said he had had a chance to review this. He had no concerns about the way the contract was written and structured. So I passed that on to you as his
Okay.
short but official opinion.
One question I had, which was a little bit of a concern to me, was the ownership of documents in there. I don't know what's normally legally done with this sort of thing, but that was a concern in my mind anyway, because we are basically paying for all those documents
Right.
and authorizing you to create them, but then you retain ownership?
So the way that I understand it is any project that we do with you that is part of our task order, you own that project. So if, for instance, for the runway 1836 construction, any of the construction documents that we develop for that, you own all of those projects.
Okay, it doesn't read that way.
John, I think I have to find the exact, I have to find it in here. I know exactly what you're talking about because I read the same thing. If you continue reading through that paragraph, once the documents are paid for and they receive the full amount due, then we own those documents.
It's halfway between what both of you are talking about. Paragraph 9, CHA shall grant the client a non-exclusive license to use said instruments of service. What that means is we get them, and we can use them.
Right.
And they can use them for any purpose that we want to, as long as we pay for them.
Right, well, I understand that, and I understand that part, but it still made comment that they own them, which means they still have a right to use them however they want.
And that probably would exist, that probably is true as well. And as long as we can use them, I'm not too concerned about whether they can use them.
Well, I don't know if that's customary or not, it was just a concern that I
Sure.
had, so I thought I would voice it.
Yeah, I think the only thing that we would be using it for, I mean, would be, marketing purposes or something like that. If we, if we have some really cool pictures that we're taking on a construction site that we want to share, then we would be sharing some of those.
Everything else is pretty site specific.
Right. And the only other thing I can think of is, we do, whenever there are bids that come in, we have a library of bids from all of our projects, so we will we'll go back and we'll look at your bid prices and say, oh, in Warsaw, they just did an asphalt project, what bid prices did they have, so that when we are doing a project in Fort Wayne, we can say, oh, okay, similar contractors are going to be working on this, but that's also public information as well for bidding, so.
Okay,
That answer your question, John?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions?
Nope.
Yes,
Yes, I'm sorry.
the limitation on liability, paragraph 16. It said the CHA and its officers, directors, that shall be limited to only compensation under the agreement. But you have professional liability insurance and
Right.
stuff that surely exceeds
Yes.
the cost. So that seems to be contradictory to, because if you are negligent, you or your insurance company are going to be liable for whatever that is up to the policy limits. So the way that's worded, I question. And, let's see, yeah, down here, you've got professional liability insurance of $2 million. Do you guys have an umbrella policy? I don't see anything in there about that.
We do have an umbrella policy, and with airport projects, I mean, we have to have, and I apologize, I don't know the exact amount, but we have to, it's on the higher end of, I mean, compared to our transportation group, for instance, it's much higher because we are around aircraft. I can get that information for you if you'd like. I don't know it off the top of my head.
Ballpark, 5 million, 10 million?
I think it's 10 million,
Okay. Good.
but again,
I wish
I can
that was
verify
on
that
there.
if you'd like me to.
Okay. I would like to know.
Okay.
Any further questions? Does the board want to take action on this as it is now? You ready to do that?
Or do you want to wait for that to be answered?
Well, I don't want to be the only fly in the ointment, I guess.
Well, I guess the question is, how much difference is there in what we see today versus what we got a week ago?
The slight changes that we made were, and I apologize, our legal counsel had sent us over, this one is for task orders, like I mentioned, how each project would have its own task orders. And his, that I sent last week was for a specific project. So it, really, section 1 is the main difference, where it breaks down that we're doing it by task order.
So all these, haven't had a chance to go through the whole document yet, but one of the things that I had noted from the previous one was it listed several exhibits, but they weren't in the document. Are they all there now?
They're all in
Yes.
there now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Really, the only appendix that is included with this, it's required by FAA to include those federal provisions in this contract, so.
We
Yep.
actually got a copy of that.
Yep.
So the exhibit regarding pricing then is eliminated?
Correct, so section 1 mentions that exhibit, and it's no longer included in that, which I think that you have the most recent print off,
That's,
yeah.
that's what I put
Yeah.
on for everybody.
Yep,
And the reasoning, it's very similar to what we had with our previous consultant, and that is whenever we have a grant, they will give us a total project cost with the different rates for the different engineering fees, geotechnical fees, coring, whatever that project requires, that will be submitted to the board, and then once the board approves that project and we move forward with that grant, then that task order is in place for that grant.
Okay, I understand that, but what about what happens that when, in the course of events, you need their services, answers, questions on, you know, something that's not a big project or something, you know, how are we going to get billed for that?
so the way that we take care of it, I mean, it depends on what the request is. A lot of times, we just do that, you know, without an agreement, and we just do it, you know, sometimes we'll tie it into other projects that we're working on for you, or like the CIP, for instance. We don't charge our clients to put together their CIP. We look at it as an opportunity for us to, you know, because a lot of those projects that are part of that CIP are projects that we are going to be working on. So we don't charge you to put those together. So it's only really the projects the bigger FAA projects that you're working on that we charge for. So with our company, we have what we call CLAD. It's a client advocacy program, and we put, you know, certain dollars, you know, overhead towards that, so that we don't have to charge you for that.
So you're saying that there's probably not going to be any like T&M
I mean,
jobs?
in the future, I'm not saying ever, but for the small examples that I've just given, those are not things that we normally charge for. So, I mean, in the future, if you want us to, I'm not for sure what you've been charged for in the past, but something small that, you know, is going to be half an hour of my time, I'm not going to charge you for that. Something that's even, you know, 20 hours, I'm not going to charge you for that. But if it's going to be something that's going to be taking, you know, 2 weeks for our team to do, we may have a discussion on it, and it just depends on what that is.
But at that point, let me see if I'm characterizing correctly. The vast majority of the work is project-based, which means we're
Yes.
getting a part of a contract project with estimates. Some of the work will be, I know I hate to use the word, but free, in the sense that we're not paying directly for that work as it's going on. There may be work in between, and I guess probably what I'm saying, I've been speaking for the board, is if you start to go down the road of a project that you're gonna be billing a time rate or time and material or whatever, we'd like you to tell us before you
Right.
start billing us for that.
Correct,
So
yeah,
we
we
know
would-
what that is.
Yes,
Right?
yeah.
Yeah, I don't wanna hear about it afterwards. I
No,
wanna hear about it
no,
before.
no, no. And if there's a request that I think that it is something like that, I would say, okay, we need to discuss, you know, some type of compensation for this.
Would you
but-
present like a rate sheet so that we know what the charges could be?
Yeah, I can definitely share that. Normally how we have it is we have our rates set for, you know, project specific. So just like I mentioned, you know, sometimes we're gonna need, you know, an engineer, sometimes we're gonna need a planner, sometimes we're, you know.
It's a little different than Board of Public Works, where we're using so many different types of engineers and different planners, different grant writers, depending on what the project is. They will submit a proposal with the complete project, and they won't just give a, you know, necessarily an hour by hour. They're gonna say, this project is going to take 100 hours of this type of engineer and 40 hours of this type, and they'll put together a full proposal as part of that grant project. This is the exact same way that we had set up with our previous engineer, and it's how airport consultants
Okay.
work.
Okay.
A great example, last week I had a question on some new light poles that we're putting up out at the airport, and I was getting stuck on the FAA's website with some 7460 documents, which is, we have to get those poles airspace just so that they're on our master plan. And I called down, Mary was in a meeting, so a couple other of her team were able to answer my question. They said, hey, we got free half an hour, we'll just go ahead and fill up, and they filled out everything and sent it up, and it was done in 30 minutes for me. So it's just one of those things that they help out the airports with.
Okay. Any other questions? Do you want to take action on this now? I'm not, I mean, we're reviewing these copies, the agreement, I don't think it's vital that we do, but I mean, I don't want to delay it if we don't need to delay it either, so. What's your feelings on it?
Well, the answer to my questions on this insurance and stuff, be cause any rewriting of this document or some changes?
I don't think so. I think that once you see the limits that we have for insurance, that you'll be, you know, pleasantly surprised that, I mean.
Have you already submitted a certificate of insurance to the airport or the city?
We have not, no.
Typically, that's done, again, per project.
Yeah, because they have to prove every time they've got the insurance, every time the project
Yeah.
comes
Yeah.
by, because everybody else wants to know they've got insurance too.
So every time they are receiving compensation from the airport, they would provide a new certificate of insurance for that project to prove that they
Really?
have all of that.
Okay, so with my customers, I have to give them a certificate every year, whether I'm working there or not right then. I
Yeah.
have to give all of them a new certificate.
Yeah, and, you know, from my standpoint, we got it both ways. Some places we have to make sure, have our insurance coverage once a year. Some places have to do it when we do a particular project for them, like bond work or something like that. We always have to do our insurance, so. I've seen it both.
John, what's
So
your?
are you happy with that?
I guess so.
And again, I mean, this can wait if you do have any reservations. I mean, we don't have any task orders or anything written up this month, so, I mean, I'm fine with waiting. I know that we promised to have a contract to you, so if there are questions, you know, we can have the legal guys talk to each other and work that through.
Are you okay with it?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I move that we adopt the agreement.
Second.
Okay, been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carried. Which is the copy on me to sign, Nick? Okay. Thank you. I don't know, did I steal it? Yep, it's right here. I got it. Stole it before. Okay.
So the next item that we had on our action items was with DBE Connect. So with the FAA, all of your projects are required to have DBE participation since they are federally funded. So we worked with Nick to get that transferred over to our name. So that has been done. The other is getting access to Delphi, which is the accounting software that you get your grant funds from. So that is a little bit more complicated because you still have a grant open with NGC currently. So I actually just heard from the FAA today, and Nick was on that email, and Nick just needs to send her an email that's asked for us to have access. So what that will mean is that Ken and NGC will still have access for the Runway 1836 grant, and then all of the grants coming forward, CHA will have ownership or access to. So.
Will you also have access to the 1836 information?
I don't believe so. I think that you can only allow one consultant to have access. That's the way that the FAA system is set up, so.
So how's that going to work? Because
They will get copies of the documents, they just don't have direct access through that one electronic system. That's how the engineers submit everything to the FAA for review, for comments, approvals, everything else. And they can it's set up so that only one client, now once that project has been finalized, the FAA signs off on everything, we sign off on all of the design work. We will receive hard copies of all of those designs, and then those are what we can use going forward and what CHA will have access to.
Okay, so
since-
who's actually going to be responsible for the actual construction work of 1836?
Right, so his contract was only for design. So, and it's later on, it's towards the end of my
Okay, oh, I'm sorry.
review, but no, we can go into it now. But basically, what I mentioned there is that our recommendation, and again, the board can, go with this or go with something else, is that Ken will finish out the design, and then CHA will bid the project and do construction on the project. We do, construction administration and construction inspection services. And then we do recommend that during the bidding process, you have NGC as on retainer, essentially, for any questions that there may be to the design. So, because there may be, yes, we're engineers and we could potentially answer the questions, but there may be something that he assumed during design or something that we're not privy to. So if we can't answer that question during the bidding process, then we'll go to NGC for that answer.
Now, this description of not having got anything back from NGC yet, is that, any concerns about that at this point?
Not at this point, no.
Okay.
We had originally, and I don't mean to speak for you, Nick, but he had originally reached out to FAA because it sounded like they had many of those documents, but after reaching out to them, it doesn't sound like they have the design files from Ken yet. So I think you just started contacting him last week or something after
Yeah,
the new
with-
year. So
With the holidays and everything else, we just haven't been able to connect between his vacations and my vacations. I'm not concerned at all. I'm sure it's
Okay.
just fine.
Okay.
So, at this point, Nick, do you have an expectation on when the designs?
I have
Will
not
be
spoken
done.
with Ken since before Christmas, so until I talk to him, I can't tell you a definitive date of when those will be to us, but they were above 90% complete in December, so it should be pretty quick.
Because isn't it our goal to have this bid out and the work done this summer?
Correct.
That means we don't have a lot of time.
Correct.
you have to have bids to the FAA by July 1st. that's their deadline for grant applications, so,
Okay, well, we don't want to wait nearly that long.
No,
Yeah, I'm
I'd
just-
see it a lot
Yep.
sooner than that.
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Just so you know what the deadline
What
is,
the
that's
what
the
the last
deadline.
possible date is,
Yes,
yeah.
yep.
Yeah.
The only other item, before we go on to AEP, I just got, information to Nick, today about, an appraiser for the maintenance hangar. So he's wanting to get that appraised, so we, have shared that information with him and, they can connect.
That was gonna be one of my questions.
So he has that information. Now on to AEP. Nick informed AEP of the engineering consultant change, so they are made aware of that. We have reached out to them. We actually reached out on the 11th of December, and we have been trying to get information from them. Last week, we finally received their proposed plan. It's in a model in AutoCAD. So Travis Carnes is reviewing that model right now. So we do have that information from them. We are still working on getting a meeting set with them. But at this point, we do have the model so that we can at least start reviewing that. And
Anything
then
else for us?
then we already talked about the 1836 design,
Yep.
so unless you guys have any questions.
Any other questions? Okay. Well, thanks for being here, Mary. We look forward to seeing you every
Yes.
month as we work through this process together. So, Nick, you're next. What's up?
Fuel usage report, sorry, let me get back into that mindset here quick. I've got the right tab up. So as you guys can see, we were down compared to where we were last year for the end of the year, kind of like what I was saying in November. In December, we figured we would be just shy of 300,000 gallons for the year. We actually ended the year for jet fuel sales at 273,132 gallons. And for 100 low lead, we sold 23,951.6 gallons. So jet fuel, we were down just shy of 170,000 gallons compared to last year. And then avgas, we were down about 2,400 gallons from where we were last year. All in all, though, revenues stayed fairly flat because of that fuel pricing adjustment that we went through over the last 18 months. So that's been a good help and in keeping the revenues fairly flat. So unless you guys have specific questions on either the fuel usage report or the income statement.
On the income statement, it says for a period of January 1, 2019 through the end of the year, but I assume the month to date is December quarter date, it's the fourth quarter.
Correct.
Okay.
Mayor, how does the income statement look for you in terms of the overall city financial situation? We still managed to carry most of our weight here?
I would say yes.
Okay.
And I will say again, I've said it several times, but that fuel pricing adjustment has really helped with the revenue and us carrying as much weight as we can.
Okay. Any other questions about the fuel report or the income report?
Nope.
Next, looks like you might have some new business for us, Nick.
I do. So this is
That's
something.
this one sheet thing right
The one
here,
sheet
right?
that I
Okay.
handed out, yep. Our after-hour fees have not been adjusted
Forever.
ever. And we've been looking at it. I've called several other airports in Indiana. Currently, we charge $25 for an after-hour fee. That's it. And if you just look at the wage that we're paying our employees, we're losing anywhere from $20 to $30 every time one of those guys comes out to fuel the aircraft. Now, we do make money, obviously, selling the fuel to the client that has called us out. However, we just need to adjust the rate that someone pays. The second part of it is we are having more and more and more aircraft come in and require one of our line techs to be there after hours just for the aircraft to land. A lot of times they do not purchase any fuel. They ask what our fees are, and we say $25, and there's no other fees that we can levy. And if they don't purchase fuel, then we've just lost a lot of money on that. So my proposal, after talking with several other airports, is that we have, for an aircraft who does not purchase fuel, if they require one of our line techs to be at the airport after hours, it would be a fee of $200 for the first hour, and then $100 per every consecutive hour after that, billed in whole. We're not going to do quarter hours, half hours, anything like that. If they require 2 personnel to be there, that rate is just a
Double.
flat dump. It's an hourly rate.
Yeah.
If they are purchasing fuel, then we will cut those 2 rates in half, $100 for the first hour, and then $50 an hour after that.
And is this policy, was bring our charge within the median or?
Correct.
Or the mean of, not the mode, because nobody knows what the mode is.
Yeah.
The median and mean, okay.
Correct. Some airports have just a flat hourly rate where it's just X amount of dollars per hour. Other airports have a set rate, but then no hourly rate, but then they also have landing fees or facility fees or other things like that on top of it. I tried to find, since all airports are so different, I tried to find that middle ground and just have a solid charge for that.
And how many times do you suppose in a week or after-hour service is needed?
In a week, that's hard to say.
Or a month?
In a month,
We just had one on Christmas Day.
right.
So one of our,
We have one tonight.
we have one
How many times in a
tonight,
month? Half a dozen?
so, yeah, at least, yeah.
Why would they require a line tech if they're not wanting fuel?
135 operators are getting, so the charters are getting to the point where they would like someone there just in case there's an incident, to have the terminal open, the lights on if a passenger needs to use the restroom. 99 out of 100 times, we don't even see the passengers. We have the cars ready for them on the ramp when they arrive. The passengers get in the car and they're gone, and our line techs are there for a total of half an hour.
Yeah.
15 minutes early to clock in and get everything set up, get the cars around to where they need to be, 15 minutes to get everybody going, and then they clock out and go home. So this is just helping us to cover the cost of the expense that we are having, that we are incurring every time that those line techs then go out.
Yeah. If you had just, and that's not an insignificant financial impact either, because if you had, let's say, 100 in a year, and half of them were fuel and half of them weren't, you average an hour apiece, you're talking $15,000 difference in this policy.
And right now, I mean, by my math, and this does not include, you know, their health care or, and this is just straight hourly, we're losing anywhere from $20 to $40 every time that one of our line techs is there, so.
Do we need a motion to accept
We
this?
need a motion to approve the policy.
Approve this policy.
And I will say, we will monitor this over the next 12 months. It'll be a living document. If we see that things are changing, just like when we talked last month about the courtesy car policy, if we see lots of things going one way or the other and we need to amend this document, this is something that we can amend at any time, and we'll bring those ideas moving forward to the board.
I make a motion that we accept this on the premises, that we'll check it in a year and see if everything's going correctly.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the after-hour fees policy presented by the airport manager. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carried. Sending an original down for everybody to sign. That way, everybody's there, can see that it's posted, and by gosh, this is the policy.
Yep. And that's all I have for the manager's report this evening.
Mayor, Josh, anything for us tonight? Dan?
Question,
Yes.
last month, we talked about courtesy cars. What's the status of that?
We, with the holidays and with the vacations, or the couple weeks off that I had between Thanksgiving and New Year's, we just did not go out for any of the bids or anything.
Okay.
I'm gonna be working on that over the next month. I'll have something for you in February. The new courtesy car policy that you guys voted in last month, though, is in place, and we are using that. We are not doing the reserved courtesy car yet. We will be waiting until we get the new courtesy car.
Actually have another car. Yeah.
A reliable one.
Yeah.
The lights that we approved, you mentioned earlier, when, do you know approximately when those will go in?
They are, most of the materials are on order. We are, weather has been really weird the last couple weeks, and so there are going to have to be some new underground lines that are bored in. So we are in the schedule, and we're actually in the middle of doing some remodeling projects to help support that in our storeroom at the airport. So it's going as quickly as weather will permit right now. In fact, D&D Electric was out today, already starting on some of that project with us, so.
Okay. Any further questions?
Nope.
Okay, and meeting adjourned, and our next meeting is February 11th?
I believe so.
Yep.
February 11th.
I'm gonna be here. You gonna be here?
Yeah.
Okay. John will be in charge. I will not be here on the 11th,
We
so,
will check for quorum.
okay.